Good morning. I'm standing in front of my garden. It's getting kind of weedy out here, but it is the middle to end of August, which is so sad. I don't want winter to come. All these people that keep posting like they're ready for fall, be quiet. It's still summertime, okay? So today is my big weekly harvest. I do a weekly CSA every week, and I don't have any cool storage. So I have to harvest everything in one loop, swoop, and pull the day before. I'll pack it tonight, and I'll get the boxes to their destinations tomorrow, which makes for a very long day. But you gotta do what you gotta do, especially in the beginning, when you don't have all the infrastructure that you would like to have. The summer garden is honestly winding down. It's so sad. I have like maybe 2 cucumber plants just not doing great. I don't think any of them even have fruit. They've just barely got leaves. I've got tomatoes that are still producing, but not like they were. The potato patch is now covered. We love to tarp with the black silage tarp, and so we have this all covered. And the plan was to plant the fall crops in there, but I don't know if it's gonna be ready or not, so we'll just see. But this morning, I honestly haven't been out here in a couple days, so I'm just gonna see what there is to pick. We're kind of in between. I planted a second. Let's just get to it, okay, shall we? So the end of the cucumber tunnel that was not as majestic as I thought it was gonna be. The only things that are really still kicking are, I've got cucuzzi. Really, it's a gourd, I think, cucuzzi gourd, but you can harvest it when it's young and eat it like a squash. I've got that and zucchini. Nope, it's tromboncino squash. So tromboncino rampicante, I got the seeds from Baker Creek, and it's produced a ton. I harvested a giant one. I'll put the picture in. That was fun. And then I've got tons of cucamelons. I can see them dangling right now. The plan was this summer to do garden tours. Have I done one? No. But these garden harvest videos are kind of like my spin on a garden tour. So I'll take it. And then behind me in this patch is I need to pull some grass that's in here, but mostly sweet potatoes. And then where the sweet potatoes didn't thrive and the little vines died off, I planted melons in the hole. So watermelon, cantaloupe, and like little personal sized melon in the gaps. And I haven't received a melon yet, but I honestly planted these late, probably June. So they should be ripening anytime now. Oh yeah, you can see I've got a big old melon right here. It's not ready to pick quite yet, but I'll show you how you know your melon is ready to pick. So here's your melon. You're gonna come up here where it connects to the vine, and across from it there will be a tendril. It's starting to dry up, which is good, but you're gonna pick it once it dries up all the way to the stem. See this tendril right here? That's what it would look like. Oh, there's a little cutie one in there. But once that tendril dries all the way up, it should be ready to go. Honestly, this wild patch has been one of my favorite spots. I've got lots of sweet potato vines, some melons you see over there. I did 2 rows of okra, or like 1.5, right there that you can see is just starting to take off. I've got melons, and I'm gonna show you these little squashes over here. I have been trying for years to grow a successful winter squash crop because squash bugs are so bad, and I could probably do some things to prevent it, but I never do. And so my plants always die. I'll get like 1 off of it, and then the vines die, but I don't want to jinx it or anything. But all of these that you can see are all winter squash, and they're, fingers crossed, they're doing well. For the first time this year, I am proud and happy to say I've successfully grown honey nut. I've only ever heard people talk about the honey nut. I've been trying for 3 years to grow it, and finally I'm having success. So inside of here, you can see 2 different varieties. I can't honestly remember what this is. It's got to be winter sweet, maybe. Oh, sorry, Mr. B, don't get me. And then inside over here is a honey nut. So you can see how small they are. So it's like a little personal size winter squash. Sorry, Mr. B, leave me alone. See, this is what usually happens to my winter squash crop. Die! These are little baby squash bugs, aka the devil. I wonder if DE would work. Diatomaceous earth, possibly? I'll come out here and coat these things. Oh my gosh! Go away. Anyway, I was trying to show you what stage you'd want to pick your honey nut, because you don't pick it when it's green. You pick it, let me show you. It'll start to turn orange. I'll give this a few more days, but you can see it's starting to get some color, so you would want to harvest it once it turns that nice orange color and the skin is hard, and you should be able to store it most of the winter. This is my second round of sweet corn, and as well as popcorn, and I'm not sure if I missed the boat on popcorn, but we'll see. My theory is, even if you might not have enough time or the circumstances aren't perfect, if you don't plant it at all, you're never going to get any, right? So just plant it anyway. Okay, but that's enough chatting. Oh, there's a tiny little skink. Lots of creepy crawlies like this black fabric, by the way. So if you're not a fan of spiders, snakes, skinks, or other little critters, wear closed-toed shoes, but I don't care about it. I'm in Indiana and we don't really have any bad snakes. Watch, I get bit by a weird snake. So this part of the garden, like with the sweet potatoes and the melons, was kind of a second thought. I just had extra room and I was done planting all my transplants, so I kind of just stuck seeds everywhere, which is really fun to me. I love willy-nilly gardening. But I just found a patch of stuff that I forgot about, you guys, because when you have so much garden space, which is new to me because normally I have enough to manage, and so I go and I check it every single day and I look and I say, why aren't you growing? Because it takes forever when you're looking at the same thing every day. But when you have such a massive amount of gardening space that you're overwhelmed and you can't keep up, your garden surprises you, which is really fun. But I forgot that I had planted these. I'm pretty sure this is a Kajari melon. Possibly. It looks stripy like a Kajari. But maybe it's not. Oh, good for me. I labeled. It's not. It's a some kind of cantaloupe-ish melon, because that's my favorite melon. I could skip eating watermelon all summer to have just cantaloupe. There's nothing like it. I did a bad thing. I planted what's supposed to be pole beans and then forgot to put the trellis up, and now it's a tangled mess and I don't know what to do. Should I leave it and just let it sprawl? I mean, it has room to. Or should I try to, but this whole row, you can see the vines here going crazy because they should be trellised and I failed to. But, you know, it happens. So in this jungle area, I've got a couple different kinds of cowpeas because I figured out that I really like them. And when you are trying to think about, you know, food that stores well and that will give you, you know, nutrition for a long time to come, beans are a great option if you have the space for dry beans. If you have a small space, I wouldn't bother with dry beans. I would just find a good organic source. But if you have lots of space, Beans are super fun, and I figured out that I love shelling them. Me and my youngest Hunter will sit down. It's like a satisfying, tedious task to pick all the beans out, but I like it. And then beside the gangly pole beans are my second wave of bush beans. So in this row, I have just your classic Provider. I have Celine. It's either Celine or Selena, but it's a purple bean that was new to me last year that I really liked, so I'm growing that again. And my favorite Dragon Tongue bean, you can see the flowers right here. And oh, I see a first baby bean. See the little baby bean right here. I was really hoping that those were going to be ready this week to put in boxes, and they're really not. But that's all right. By next week, I should have some beans to put in my CSA box, which is super exciting because I really slacked. My first round of beans were ready about the time that I was taking those trips this summer, and I didn't get them picked. And once a bean goes past its prime, it's really not good for anything. That's outside is kind of tough. So I decided to just take a loss. I mean, not, I guess, a loss, but a loss in my canning, because normally I can lots of beans and we eat them all winter. But this year that just wasn't the case. So you know what I did? Instead of just saying, oh well, I guess I missed it, I just planted more immediately, and this was in July. These are the most beautiful looking beans I have ever grown. They look so pretty and so healthy, and normally Japanese beetles are really bad on my first wave of beans, and like you'll just come out and your bean leaves will look like lace. I think by sowing a little later, I kind of beat that pest cycle with the beans, and so it looks beautiful and it's healthy and pest free, which is great. I think what I was saying is, even if I thought that I missed my first window, instead of giving up, I just immediately, I got online, I ordered more seeds, and I put them in the ground as soon as I could. And I'm so glad that I did, because I had plenty of time. It's late August now, and the beans are just now producing, and I will have lots of beans to put up for the winter instead of 0. And then the first round of beans that I kind of missed the boat on, I just let grow on the plant all the way to maturity, and then I harvested them. And now I have tons of dry beans to plant for next year. I think I got ½ pound of each variety that I planted, which is super fun because I love saving seeds almost as much as I love gardening, which is part of gardening, but it feels good to know that if shit hit the fan, I can still plant a garden next year. And before I move on from this space, I have to tell you something. Let me tell you something. I have to tell you something that I personally think was a brilliant idea. So I planted into this landscape fabric, which was super tedious because I had to burn 1,000,000 holes because your beans are usually like 3 or 4 inches apart. So I had to burn 1,000,000 holes and then individually poke, I mean hundreds of beans into these holes. So while that burned up a day or so of productivity, what I'm left with is, oh, we've got growth. Look. Sidetrack. Sorry, ADD. Look at my cowpeas. They're growing. I want to taste one. It just kind of tastes like a more pungent green bean. Like it has more flavor than your classic green bean. But it's pretty good. I won't be eating a ton of these raw because, you know, I want to harvest the bean inside. But good to know that they're there. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So sorry for the interruption, but that was exciting because I hadn't seen them yet so far. I planted into this fabric, but kind of where I planted was the adjoining of 2 pieces. You can see right down here, there's a gap. Yeah, there's a gap in the fabric from where we didn't pull it far enough before we button the other side down. So there's a space right here that weeds were gonna grow anyway. So what I did is, let me find a good spot, because I came down here and I already harvested some for salsa the other day. Oh, here we go. So I just super thickly sprinkled some seeds in this gap, hoping that they would have enough light and moisture to germinate. It was the same time that I did the beans, so that they weren't competing, because if I tried to sow things now, like in the gap, it would never have enough light because these beans are shading it. But now they're appreciating the shade. So what I was so confused about when I first started gardening, because cilantro to me is like a Spanish, Mexican, you know, flavored herb that goes with all your summer vegetables, like tomatoes, peppers, onions, you know, to make your salsa. I was so confused when I first planted cilantro and it just like immediately bolted, because I'm like, you're supposed to go with these things, but you don't like to grow in this weather. Cilantro actually prefers the cooler temperatures of like spring and fall. In the heat of the summer, it really does not like it, and it will go straight to seed. So my thought process was, I will put the cilantro in here where it will grow with plenty of shade, like all these beans are shading it, and so it won't get so hot. And it's working wonderfully. I am so excited about this space. And so if you have a small space and you're not growing in a ton of area, you know, like this, utilizing the space that you do have to plant more in is a really good idea. So I did cilantro through here. You know, you can see it tucked in there all the way until down here, and then I started planting dill, which can also tolerate some shade and doesn't like the super hot weather, but you can see all in here, like all the way to the end is dill. So basically, instead of wasting this space or letting weeds grow in this space, because something was going to grow there, if I did not put something there, the earth will cover herself, because she is a modest lady. So now at this end of the season, when all my herbs are kind of petering out, like my first round of dill has been done for quite some time, I will still have dill to use fresh, to dry, to use in canning, as well as cilantro to put in all my canned salsa. Yeah, so I'm really happy with my decision to just sprinkle some seeds in a gap. I will probably be doing that forever now, because that has worked out great. And then one last thing that I didn't have super good germination, which I thought was weird, that or some critter came and ate the top of the freshly sprouted plant, because that can happen too, is I planted a second wave of cucumbers, you can see, which honestly already look crappy. I'm not very happy about that. But if I don't get any more, it's not the end of the world. I'm not sure if I hit my goal. My goal was to can 100 jars of pickles, but that was a little ambitious of a goal anyway. But I've counted, and so far this season, I've canned like 180 jars, mostly quarts. So that's fun. And I'm not even close to being done yet. So I'm feeling good about where I'm at in my canning, but I did shoot for a second round of cucumbers to make pickles with, and a second round of zucchini, which, as you can see, there are some holes, so I'm not sure what happened, but nevertheless, I will have some squash. I don't know if it will be enough to share with my friends, but I know that it will be enough for me, because as I have said, squash bugs usually take my squash out halfway through the season. Like, I don't really have any plants left hardly, but this is a new wave of squash that look pretty darn healthy. I don't think the squash bugs have found them yet, knock on wood. What you need to do is look underneath your leaves. They usually lay their eggs on the underside, and I've seen them lay them, you know, on the stems and things too, but you can easily hand pick them off if you only have a few plants. But I don't see any signs yet, so fingers crossed they don't find them. Behind me are all my sweet peppers. I think I planted nearly 500, either 400 or 500 sweet peppers. And I planted so many. So one of my favorite sweet peppers are, well, it's not really a sweet pepper. It's more of like a frying pepper, roasting pepper, I don't know. Is shishitos are so good. We wait all year to eat shishitos because I only eat them in season because there's really no good way to preserve them. If there is, let me know, but as far as I have found, there's really no way because they're so thin-walled that they easily turn to mush if I was going to try to preserve them. So we just eat and eat all summer until we're absolutely sick of them, which hasn't happened yet. But I have planted so many plants. I don't even know a count, but like more than 13 people can eat because 12 of my CSAs plus me, and I have even more than that. So they're a super productive pepper. It makes a ton, but they're so delicious. I just kind of blister them on a really hot pan, or I love to use a Blackstone. Super easy. I just throw some grease on it, blacken these, I guess, for like 5 minutes. Just keep flipping them, add a little salt, make a little dipping sauce, and it's so good. Super easy side dish or appetizer. But what I'm gonna say is last week I didn't harvest any, so this week I'm sure there will be plenty. So I'm gonna speed this part up, but I'm gonna see just how many shishitos comes off of this area. I think I'm gonna have to break down and buy a new camera battery because it keeps dying when I'm trying to film stuff. So I don't know how much you saw of me harvesting shishitos, but just to give you an idea of how many shishitos there are. There is a ton of shishitos. That was cheesy. But I've got to run this back to the house, charge the battery, and I'll be back with you guys in a little bit. It has been a few hours since you have last seen me. All these ground cherries, and if you are a grower of ground cherries, you know how long it took me to pick all those. Because ground cherries get their name from falling on the ground, which make them the most tedious crop to pick out of everything. Because you have to crawl around on the ground to find them, but it is worth it. Even though every year I contemplate not growing them anymore. Hunter would be very mad at me if I stopped growing them. Plus, I've got a big old peck of peppers. I don't know technically how much is in a peck, but there's a ton of peppers. We're coming into pepper time. Usually peaks in August, so we're hitting the mark on the pepper peak. Everything is finally ripening, thank goodness. I've had to give my CSA members just unripe peppers for the last few weeks because 1, they probably don't know the difference, but 2, I'm really excited that these are ripening. Anyway, I gotta go back out. I still have to harvest tomatoes and basil, but I think those are it. Fingers crossed. These are my pitiful looking cherry tomatoes, and while they might look sad, there's still plenty of food in here, so I'm gonna crawl around and pick. And the forgetful part of me forgot my tripod, So that's nice. But yeah, I'm gonna get busy, and then I'll probably just show you at the end the colorful mix of fruit that I've pulled off. Okay, I'm a little bit sweaty, but I am done picking slicers. So I think that I've got plenty of slicers to just fill 10 boxes, because it's not like the whole box is tomatoes, but you can see the color that I picked last, which is yellow and orange. This is one of my favorite small tomatoes, because if you have been following my channel, you know I hate this size of tomato. So it's not like a cherry that you can pop in your mouth, and it's not a slicer that you would like put on a sandwich. But it's really, really good, so I always grow it. It's called Wapsipinicon Peach. This you would never find this in a store, because the skin is so thin, like it's so soft. Even if there's still a tiny bit of green still, it's just so soft. But it's so good. The outside is kind of fuzzy, like a peach. That's probably where it gets its name. But it's so sweet and so delicious. I picked plenty so that I could save seeds, because this variety didn't make my seed saving video I shot the other day when it downpoured on me and I had to stop. But yeah, all I have left now is cherries and basil, and I'm done. And that little bit of breeze feels wonderful. Okay, I am done with cherry tomatoes. I don't think that I got enough, but I can always come back and pick more because it's full. But a lot of the top here is Brad's Atomic Grape. I love that one. And this is Indigo Pear Drops. Isn't it pretty? I think it's pretty. What else we got? Sun Gold. And another one that looks similar to this, but it's not. It's called Lucky Tiger, and it must be in the bottom. Oh, I might have found one. Yeah, Lucky Tiger. This one's new to me this year, and I really like it. Like, I'm gonna start narrowing down my cherry tomatoes. I say this now in August. When March rolls around and it's time to start them, I'm gonna start them all like I always do. But I love the cute little star that all the purple tomatoes get on the top where their stems were. Isn't it so cute? It's my favorite part. Alright, I'm gonna take you with me and show you how I harvest basil. So I have multiple patches of basil. I have some like here, there, and everywhere, because it is my absolute favorite garden herb. And so I have it planted all across everywhere. So here's my little patch of it that I have right here, and you can see that it's currently going to seed. Now, how I'm gonna harvest this is, so this is how basil grows. It branches out from here. You can see, like, if I pinch it off right here, new little growth is gonna shoot up from all of those branching points and just get bushier. When your basil is starting to go to flower, you definitely don't want it to set seed. So, like, this one hasn't started to produce the flowers yet, but you can see on this guy, the little white flowers have coming out, and it's even starting to dry. So I definitely picked this at the right time, because the plant starts sending a signal once it starts to set seed that the plant has done its job. It's going to live on, you know, when the seeds fall down in the soil for next year. That's the whole plant's goal, is to continue living, you know, whether it's now or later. An annual, it will be later. So I go in and I pick off all the tops of all my basil, and that keeps the plant growing and growing strong and keep producing all season long if you just stay on top of picking those flower heads off, so that your plant doesn't think that it's done its job and it will go to sleep for the season. I want it to keep going. This is one of my favorite basil varieties just for all season growth. It's called Emerald Towers, and technically I think it's a hybrid. I don't know if it's hybrid or open pollinated, so don't quote me on that. But you know how most basils consistently go to seed like a couple times a month. You'll notice that they'll start to flower and you'll pick them off, and then you come back a couple weeks later and they've started to flower again. This variety is specifically nice if you're trying to harvest lots and lots of basil and you don't want to look at it every single day. You don't want to think about the right time to harvest it all the time, because it last year I grew it for the first time and all season long, and it did not once go to seed. Now this isn't good if you are trying to be super sustainable and save your own seed so that you can grow next year's crop, but it is super convenient to have around, because if all else fails, you know you have this basil. Because basil is one of those things that I really enjoy the most, like the shishitos. There's not a super good way to preserve basil. There are a few ways, and I do dry it, but it's never the same as it is fresh. And fresh pesto we eat all summer long, and it is so good. Don't ask me for a recipe. I do not measure a single thing. I throw everything in a food processor and blend it up. And my husband gets mad at me because all my recipes are different every single time. So if one night it's like the most spectacular you've ever had, you'll never have it again, because I didn't measure anything. I just threw everything in. So that's one of my downfalls. But sometimes you make real magic. Okay, I am doing the last task for my CSA. Actually, almost the last task. I still have to pack peppers, I think. But I do have a couple CSA bouquets that have wandered in. And 2 bouquets is like nothing to cut. So I can walk around and I can look and I can ponder. I like to put the most valuable things in my CSA bouquet, so it's mostly dahlias with some glads, because there are some beautiful... I don't have many glads left, but what I do is on key, look at this. And I don't know if it's going to come across on camera. This is the first color of that kind that I've gotten so far, and it is beautiful. And guess what I did, because I'm always in a hurry? I came down here without a flower bucket of water. So I am going to just cut everything and then show you what I cut, because I'm going to have to hurry up so these aren't out of water too long. How beautiful is this light right now, though? I mean, come on. Beautiful. I really hate that I didn't bring a bucket. There are so many beautiful flowers out here right now. I mean, this is just like a 1/100th of what is out here to pick. I have to remind myself that I'm on a mission, and that the sun is going down, and I don't have any water, and I gotta go. But I want to cut everything because it's so pretty. But I can't. I gotta go. All right. I really do gotta go now. But this one is my favorite. And I like the deep purple. But let's go back and shove these in a jar, shall we? The hoverflies are hovering. Can you see me now? Maybe I'll do it sitting. Wow, I get to sit. Alright, I've got an arms full of flowers, and I am about to just go ham, as the kids say. I'm just gonna... I need somewhere to sit them, and I ain't got nowhere. Look at this. I'm pretty sure this one is Diva, and and it looks like velvet. Like it's pretty good. It's pretty awesome. So it's going in here in the center. Need to cut it a little shorter, I think. Okay, the end of my day has come, and I'm gonna show you. So this is bouquet number 1. Bouquet number 2. And then, because I haven't showed you what's inside of my CSA boxes before, I will show you. So what's not pictured is a dozen eggs, because I've always got eggs coming out my ears, so I'm definitely going to put eggs in here. Look how big and beautiful this bell pepper is, first of all. So there's lots of peppers in the box this week, because it's pepper time, finally. So I've got a pound of shishitos, just miscellaneous peppers. So I've got a bunch of peppers in here, and I've got 3 onions in the box this week. Every week is a little bit different, but more or less the same. A pint of cherry tomatoes. What's super special this week is ground cherries are finally here. So that's in the box this week. That's exciting. I've got basil, and I saw someone else do this, and it's actually a really good way to save your basil. Is I put it in a Ziploc bag with a paper towel, and you leave it room temperature, like on your table, for like more than a week, and it's been fine. For me, at least. What else is in here? And then I have 5 big slicing tomatoes and some little snacking peppers. These are the best. The little like lunchbox peppers. I've got those in here too. And big tomatoes. And yeah. So, can take a thumbnail. So yeah, this is their box this week. I've not had any complaints thus far. So I'm hoping everybody's liking it, but I'm tired and my brain can no longer make sentences really. I'm just mumbling, and so I think I'm gonna get off here and eat some dinner and sit in this chair for the rest of the day. So thank you guys for watching. Until next time.